but there's there. That's it started. Okay, that's fine. No, got it. Thank you very much. Okay, thank you and good evening to everyone for attending this sitting of the local partnership for Erskine, Inchinnan, Bishopton and Langbank. We'll just get on with the agenda. The usual rules. This is a meeting online, so I do ask that you use the raise hand feature where possible. If your technology is failing you for whatever reason it's not working and I've not noticed, please just unmute yourself and I'll do my best to try and coordinate efforts to allow everyone the opportunity to speak on items. Okay, thank you. So just to crack on, any apologies from any members?
There's one apology from David Woodrow from Bishopton Community Council.
Okay, thank you very much. Is there any declarations of interest or transparency statements in relation to tonight's business? None are intimated. So we'll move on to item 1, which is the minute of the previous meeting held on the 13th of February. Is there any comments or questions on this item? Can we agree item 1? That's agreed. Thank you very much. Okay, item 2, sorry, computer. Behave, there we are. Item 2 is the applications for local partnership funding to Erskine, Inchinnan, Bishopton and Langbank local partnership for the current financial year of 2025 to 26 and the funding proposals, which is, you know, we all know that this is the main sort of item of business for tonight's meeting. So I had said just before the meeting had started, but I will repeat just so that people who are potentially watching this understand. In previous years, I have always issued sort of a start point for us to consider applications. I have had the officers send that to members of the local partnership just short of 5 minutes, 5-10 minutes before the meeting. I do apologise that it's not been any earlier than that. I had a bit issue with my computer, but you should all have it now. So can I just check if there's anyone who has not received it? Should be near the top of your inbox. I'm not getting an indication that they haven't. Okay, so I suppose I'll talk to my proposal first, and I'm quite happy for people to come in. We can shift things around. So the main thing is that we've got the 3 columns, which is that there's an award column, a discuss column, and a no award column. Where there has been no award, it's not that I didn't think that these applications weren't good or they didn't do worthy things. I think we've all spoke about that in the past. Is that either the thing that they're looking to achieve isn't in the locality for our area, or there hasn't been an indication of sort of how, if it's been things like an electricity bill or energy bills, or it's running a full service, which isn't really, we've had these discussions as a whole that this is not the right area locality for it, and I'd rather that we had carry over of funds for relevant applications throughout the financial year, because we do get them. So that is why I have rejected the ones that are in the no award column there. There are 3 applications in particular I would like to speak to before I open it up further. So you'll see on that document FR 1080, which is Bonnie Bishopton, and their application. Now, they would qualify for the Village Investment Fund. I believe there's been discussions, Kerry, you may want to come in at this point to clarify. If an application is under £2,000, it can go to delegated authorities so they can get a result pretty quick. So I think there's been discussions where the applicants have agreed that they would minus the £3 off, so that it would be a £2,000 application that they're looking for. The reason why I've put in the award column is that I would like for us to ring fence it as that we agree to this being funded until we know that they definitely get their money through the Village Investment Fund. Okay, so that's for the Bonnie Bishopton application is FR 1080. The other application, which would also meet the requirements for the Village Investment Fund, would be FR 1123, which is the Inchinnan Community Council lights. However, because their application is over £2,000, that would have to go to the panel, which isn't sent until August. So what I would like for us to do is to agree the award for them to be awarded it so that they can look at getting those lights in place, but for if they were to be awarded, for them to put the money back into the local partnership area. The third application, which is in the no award column, the only reason why it's no award is because it doesn't meet any of the criteria for our applications for our priorities, is for FR1127, which is the Bishopton Development Trust application for the dredging. There's about £3,000 there. That would also meet the remit for the Village Investment Fund. So those are three applications that we are looking at tonight that would also be able to get funding through those measures. Kerry, do you want to come in and say anything to those three about that process, or are you quite content with how I've explained it to members?
Yeah, I think the only thing I would add, Councillor Campbell, is that I have spoke to Bonnie Bishopton about the possibility of moving over to the Village Investment Fund, just to make sure that, first of all, that wasn't going to jeopardise a subsequent application that they had planned, because I'd be hesitant to do that. So they've indicated that they would be quite happy to go to the Village Investment Fund, and they had no future plans for applying, so it doesn't jeopardise any kind of double funding kind of situation. But yes, that's everything you've mentioned is exactly the kind of conversations we've had with our Village Investment Fund colleagues.
Okay, thank you very much, Kerry. Councillor McLaren, you want to come in at this point?
Thank you, Michelle. I've just got a query with the Inchinnan community lights. I think they got an award in the autumn there for some community lighting, Christmas lighting, and the is that what this application is for? Christmas lighting? It says community lighting, communal lighting.
Yes, Christmas lighting for within the community. It's a two-part application.
I'm a little bit concerned because I got an email today which said that the Inchinnan community got their application for community lights because they only had a Christmas tree, which is fair enough, whereas other people already had Christmas lights and they were refused. But I was told that further applications wouldn't be successful. So I'm a wee bit concerned that if this isn't going to be supported by the department, that might pose a problem for them.
I believe that's all been sorted. In terms of the resource for the officers, in terms of the actual, you mean the fitting of the lights and is that
fitting, storage, who the contractor is, because the contractor's ability is already a capacity, I'm told. So I'm not sure that how this is going to work.
This has already been agreed with the council officers. I'll bring in Jerry at this point. Thank you.
Yeah, that's right, Councillor Campbell. The officers are aware of the funding applications that have come in here, and there have been conversations with John Wallace and my team and the applicant around that, and how we would then deal with supporting that. So that's been addressed.
Okay.
So, Michelle, if that's the case, are we open for further applications for Christmas lighting then?
The people who are looking to apply would then have to speak to council about the capacity. That would have to be on each applicant's basis. It's not really for us at the local partnership.
It does sound as if we're getting two different responses here.
And that's something that you might need to address off outside of this meeting, Councillor McLaren. I can only go on what is here.
Okay, all right.
Okay, thank you very much.
Okay.
So the applications that we have there, can I just ask, in terms of the one where I've put no award, is there any there that people would like to move to the discuss column, or is everyone content in agreeing the no award applications there? Councillor McLaren.
Yeah, okay, thank you. Under no award, you've got Bishopton Development Trust, but you've talked about putting that one on hold. So
the Bishopton Development Trust one is for going to the Village Investment. That one would go to Village Investment.
If it gets knocked back by them, it comes back to us, does it?
If you want to move it to the discuss column, it doesn't meet any of our local priorities. That's why they have moved. That's why I've moved it to no award. On the basis, what I do is I look at the applications, which ones meet the criteria of being very local, because obviously we've all spoke about how we want them to explain what they're delivering locally in the area, whereas the Bishopton Development Trust one doesn't meet the local priorities for that application. So that is the reason why I have put that there. Councillor McLaren, I will come back to you. I'm going to bring in other members at this point just to make initial comments, but I will come back to you, okay?
Okay.
Thank you. Okay, Colin, you want to come in at this point?
Yeah, no, I'm just obviously curious. Obviously, the Lamont Farm I can see is on the no award basis. Obviously, that's quite a great resource in Erskine, and it's obviously used for educational purposes and teaching kids. A city farm, it was, it was always great when getting school kids out and everything else to obviously use that and see it. It's a bit disappointing to see it's been given marked as no awards.
I can fill in the gap there for you, Colin. In previous years, we have had discussions and we have funded the Lamont Farm project. What we had asked of the project was for them to come up with a comprehensive business plan for the council to be able to support them and being able to sustain and have a more feasible project rather than just relying on donations. They came back and stated that they were quite content with the way that they operate and did not want to look at doing that business plan. Unfortunately, they continue to not have a business plan, so the local partnership members are in agreement that if they change their mind and want to create that business plan, then they can come back to the local partnership, which is part of the reason why I like to have a reserve of money for throughout the year. So should local organisations like Lamont Farm want to engage in that, because there's lots of supports there, it's not like they would have to do it themselves, engage offer to support Lamont Farm in many ways, and they'd continue. I see Alan McNiven, who's here tonight, the chief exec, who's given me the thumbs up that he's more than happy to engage with Lamont Farm if they want to take up that offer to be able to have a business plan that will help them to be sustainable. So I believe that the local partnership continues to have this viewpoint because we want to see them to continue to succeed, but they need to have that business plan to be able to effectively engage. I'm going to bring in Jacqueline at this point, followed by Sam, then Ian.
Yeah, thank you. I would maybe follow up, just not that I wasn't initially going to say about Lamont Farm, but just I did think it was quite vague asking for educational resources. There didn't seem to be anything exactly what kind of educational resources. It would have been nice to have a wee bit more meat to the bones with that one, to know what exactly they were actually looking for out of that. But just in terms of, and it's just out because I couldn't work out who is it that was actually asking for the Park Means community sport. Was it one rec? Because you know how it's the school. It was quite vague. I don't know if was it coming from the school. Is it something that's celebrating Renfrewshire, or was it coming from? I was unclear as to who actually was driving that.
They're a standalone organisation, right, but they have been funded previously through those measures. So they're coming to us for it. The reason why I rejected them was because it felt like they were asking for us to fund a whole service to some extent for that whole thing. So rather than it being for the wider community, it felt too niche. And I think we've had those discussions previously, Jacqueline. So that's sort of where I stood with that.
No, it was just because I couldn't work. I'd never heard of them before. I was just more. Of course. But that's great. Thank you.
No bother. Councillor Mullen?
Sorry, Councillor Campbell, you did answer the bit about Lamont Farm, because I mean, you think everybody that stays in Erskine's got a kind of a connection to them one way or other with their grandchildren or children's went to the farm over the years, but you've explained what I was really wanting to find out, because I would always like to think we would support them if they come up with something.
Absolutely.
That was, and I think we would. So thanks for that. Cheers. Thank you.
And like I said, if tonight we agree the way that I have pitched this, there's going to be money there. So if they want to put the business proposal together, then come back to us and we consider it the next meeting. We can do that. There's not a problem with that. Councillor Nicholson.
Yeah, it's just Lamont Farm. I mean, I can understand. I mean, we've tried to engage with them for a good number of years, including council officers, and I think this body has asked them to engage, and we asked for feedback, and we had to keep going back to them, ask for feedback, then you get one-line responses. So I mean, from where I am, they seem to be in permanent crisis. Now it's a regular pattern. Now the question I would have is, if we were to fund public money to them when they're posting up Facebook saying we're going to shut, a week on Tuesday or whatever. Last year, I think they got £60,000 off GoFundMe, and I think just now they're up to 10k just now as well. So they are looking for other funding sources, but from a perspective of like public money, in a sense, i.e. council money, there would be a question mark in my mind about the viability of that service going forward, because their whole business plan at the moment seems to be crisis management. And I think we maybe got a sense of that a few years back, and that's why we're starting to say, well, can you engage with the council? Can we help you? Can we try and see where your business model is? But so far as I'm aware, there's been nothing from them to engage on that front. I don't even know if they've got a management committee anymore. I mean, as one of the local members, I've never seen any sort of talk about meetings, minutes of meetings, future planning schemes. So I think it's prudent not to put a resource to that just now until they demonstrate that they want to engage with the council and the wider community on their future. Because we do, if it is the last community farm in Scotland, well, we've got an interest in trying to save it, not just for Erskine, but for the whole of Renfrewshire. So again, I think we should put that offer back out to them and say, yeah, we want to engage with you, and we'll put the officers on the case as well, but we need them to show that willingness first, and by giving them funds where we might think, according to their Facebook pages, they might not be here in 3 months or 6 months or whatever. We have no idea of the sustainability of the farm, and it's been like that for a good number of years, and I think they're causing themselves a lot more issues than they need to do if they would just engage Renfrewshire, if not the council, just so we can get an idea of what kind of support they might need. So again, I support the no award this year, and again I would point out they got 8,500 from Celebrating Renfrewshire, which is a different funding stream. But again, we just need to see what their business plan is, I think, so that we can get behind them, and then look at more permanent, sustainable funding for them, if that's what they need. But it takes two to tango. They need to start engaging with other agencies to make that happen. Thanks, Chair.
Thank you very much, Councillor Nicholson. Councillor McLaren, I'm aware you've got your hand up. I'm going to bring in Al McNiven because I believe it's going to be pertinent to what the discussion has been on that point, and then I'll bring you in, okay? Alan, do you want to come in?
Thank you, Chair. Really just to say, I would need to speak to the officers to see what the present relationship's been like. But I know that over the years, Ian Cunningham, the Social Enterprise Officer particularly, has supported the farm, and there's been community benefits that have went in as well, in terms of local businesses putting in tarmac and etc. And that's happened over the piece. The reality is, we know that many third sector organisations are suffering from a lack of volunteers and a lack of good governance. As Councillor Nicholson says there, having a good committee is really important. But what I can guarantee you is we'll lean in and make sure that we are there as you are giving them notification of this, and we'll make sure we're available to them to pick up anything we can. Things like simple business planning, we work really closely with Invest, as you know, so that sort of thing can be done really quickly. But I think it's important that we sort of try our best to support them, as everybody seems to be saying. And again, our officers will make sure that we lean in at this point as they get this news, okay?
Thank you very much for that, Alan. That is appreciated. Councillor McLaren, do you want to come in now? Thank you.
Thank you, Convener. Just wanted to agree with what Councillor Ian Nicholson was saying about Lamont Farm there. Yeah, I think we need a bit more engagement. The other thing is, I want to say, Bishopton Sports and Social Club. You've got that in the no award. Could you explain that to me, please?
Because it's for a full refit of a sports facility, rather than actually the facilitation of what it is that's the group, the in-betweenies group that they are proposing, that is to support and have that community feel. I understand, but it's actually a full refit of the sports club centre itself is what the resourcing is looking for, and that is why I put it through as the reject, because it's not actually the project that they're looking for funding for. I think it's a good remit what they're looking to try and do, but the resourcing wouldn't be appropriate for a full refit of the building.
Okay, I don't see that under what will the project do, though.
but it's what they're looking to use the funding for. If you scroll further down and you look at how they have broke down the funding of what they're looking for in that application.
Right. Yeah. Okay. Can we refer this to somebody else then?
Okay, well, any application that is not awarded will have Kerry. I'll get Kerry to come in. She'll be able to tell exactly what she does at that point. Okay.
Thank you.
Hi, Councillor. I actually did have a conversation about possibly referring this over to the Village Investments Fund. The colleague that I spoke to felt because it was a closed group, it's not open to everybody in Bishopton, that it probably wouldn't be likely to get funding from the Village Investment Fund. So if it was unsuccessful from the local partnership, we have a form of letters that we send with information about where other funding sources that they can go to. So it wouldn't just be a case of no, we can't help you. We would try and direct them to other places. I'm sure that's kind of what we discussed today, Stuart. I'm looking at Stuart to tell me if that's correct. Obviously, this is my first round, but
yep. So yeah, Kerry's correct in that. So what we do is offer to hook them in with funding officers, both engaging in the council to identify any other source of funding that might be appropriate to them. So that's that's an offer that's open to anyone who's either declined funding or only receives partial funding.
Thank you. But I don't think the membership cost. I mean, it's a club, but the membership cost is minimal, if anything. So, is that not sway decision making?
In terms of the village investment aspect, Councillor McLaren?
Yes.
Well, I think, oh wait, Councillor Nicholson, you want to come in on this point?
Yeah, I mean, it's a question that often comes up. I'm on another funding body. It's a question that comes up if the application came from the Bishopton Sports and Social Club themselves, because we often get groups applying, and if it's nothing that's particularly, if it's disability ramp, etc., that's maybe a valid capital works. But the question I would have is if the Bishopton Sports and Social Club have their own constitution, have their own, then they want to apply for some funding like that might be more acceptable. But as we have, the way I'm reading this is we've got a club that just uses the hall, want to refurbish the whole hall, in a sense, with regards to their application. And you're right, convener, it's not specific to them as a club buying equipment for them to use, or something very specific to their. It's more to do with their environment in a hall. So I'm not sure about the club if they run the hall or whether they're applying on behalf of the Bishopton Sports and Social Club. But my take on this would, if we could advise the Bishopton Sports and Social Club to be the applicant, then we're dealing with. They
are the applicant, Ian.
Yeah, but I'm not getting. I know, James, but we're not getting that. Yeah, but I'm not getting that from the project name type thing. It's just what I'm getting is if they want to do the hall up or whatever. But it reads to me like it's a project about things going on in the hall, but they want to do the hall up, kind of thing. I know I'm not coming across as if I'm reading it right, but I think that's probably due to the application itself. So as I said, I know it might be something worth having a look at to see whether the application needs to be maybe rewritten, redrafted, or reformed to meet. Maybe the officers can help them see if it does meet. Because I know we changed the Village Investment Fund, so it's more capital focused as opposed to events focused. So I'm struggling to get to a point of saying it might be worthwhile seeing if the application can be re-looked at and then to match to the criteria for the Village Investment Fund, if you know what I mean, as opposed to at the moment it appears not to meet the criteria, but it might meet the criteria if it's just redrafted a certain way.
So we could ask if Kerry could make sure that the appropriate officers engage with the group, with the applicant, for them to consider a discussion further about the village investment.
As long as they can demonstrate a wider community benefit, that's maybe the underlying criteria. We're working with the Village Investment Fund as well. Okay. I hope I'm not confused it more than it already is, but I thought I'd get my 2 balls worth in. Thanks.
No, that's cool. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you very much.
So, Michelle, the other one was the Bishopton Community Development Trust that you were going to come back to me about.
Yes. So yes, it was just to see if you had anything further on that one. It would go to village investment. If you want us to move it to, we are already kind of discussing it. Does anyone have any other viewpoints regarding this application other than Councillor McLaren's views that he's expressed?
Can I make a quick point, please?
Yes.
Just in the application, it's got ticked to say, or crossed, does not fit the priorities. But I've had a look at this and I think it meets the key theme of leisure and culture, health and well-being, community identity, planning and environment, and community empowerment. So I don't understand why it's been ticked for does not fit the priorities.
Well,
it's the centre of the village, after all.
Like I said, that is why. The only reason why it's in that column is because it is in the application saying it does not meet the criteria. So I'm happy to accept, as a local member, that you're saying that you feel it does meet the criteria. Okay.
Yes.
So I'm moving it over to discuss at this point in time. So I'm just going to take the number because I'll forget otherwise.
I won't let you forget. Thank you.
Bishopton. Okay. Is there any other applications in the no award list there? I know we've discussed a couple of them, but is everyone content with us agreeing the no award ones thus far? The only one that I've moved over to discuss that isn't on the original list is FR1127, the Bishopton Development Trust one that Councillor McLaren has mentioned there. Okay, we're in agreement with that. Okay. So in terms of the ones that I have in the award column, if I could go to that one before we go to the discuss bit, because that's the one that takes up more time. Is everyone in agreement with FR1035 being for award? Agreed. Thank you. FR1080, which is the Bonnie Bishopton one, which will be going to the village investment, but I'd like just to ring fence money until we know that they definitely get the funding. Is everyone in agreement with that action?
Agreed.
Thank you. FR1123, which is the Inchinnan lights for Inchinnan Community Council. That would be kind of similar but slightly different, which is that we would award them the money, but should they get money at the August funding round of the village investment fund, that they will repay the money back to the local partnership.
Agreed.
Is everyone in agreement?
Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay.
And FR1145, the Renfrewshire Toy Bank, we're in agreement to fund this application.
Agreed.
That is agreed. Thank you. So the other
I put my wee hand up there.
yes, sorry, I do apologise.
I'm trying to get in there. I'm trying to get in there between the. No, just a question about the toy bank. Is one of those ones that come up every year, and it's again, it's just that question. Can we get more information about what they specifically do within your area?
Yes.
I'm conscious that when I see their activity levels, they've kind of moved away from just toys into energy vouchers. They seem to have moved into more of the sort of poverty alleviation, which is fine. But I think we should ask if they keep coming back every single year. And the impression is, I mean, it's toys for Christmas and stuff. I think they've expanded it out into birthday presents and all this. But I think it might be helpful to ask. I don't know whether they're in here somewhere, feedback or whatever. But just what do they do specifically in our area that supports our support for them every year as well? It's just because it's a repeat one.
Yep.
If that could be done, yeah.
Yeah. Are you still happy that we award, but we are asking that we want that feedback?
Yeah, panel's
like
okay, but it's fine. Yes.
Yeah, that's fine. I would ask. I'm going to actually put a time frame on it as well. I'm going to ask if they could give us feedback before the next local partnership meeting, so that we can have that information there for consideration for the local partnership, because they'll have, because they are a repeat applicant, they'll have data there that they should be able to let us know about. So if Kerry could take note and go back to that, which she's nodding, that's fine. She will get that information for the local partnership. Councillor McCulloch, you want to come in at this point as well?
Just to clarify, Chair, do we mean then we'll hold the funding back until we receive that feedback, or we're releasing the funding now?
We're giving the funding now, but still seeking the feedback if you're content.
Yeah, I'm happy with that. Thanks.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, no, we wouldn't hold back the funding, just we're looking for the extra information, that's all. Thank you very much. Okay, so that is agreed. So we're now moving on to the discuss column. So the first one is FR1090, which is Bishopton Week Group. Now, this is another repeat applicant, and I know we've had many discussions about the importance of village identity and sort of the issues that we've had there. However, there was some concerning things. There was something on social media that was brought to my attention as well, that apparently this group had been giving money out to charities. There was a social media post on Facebook where they were giving monies out to charities, and it amounted to about £3,500. So I was really confused as to why they were looking for that sort of money. Also, although not all applications have identified what their bank balance is, there are applications that have. Now, all applications are asked to provide their bank information, etc., etc. But not all of them do. Is that correct, Kerry? To the process, they are asked, but they don't always provide.
Yeah, well, most of them do provide their bank balance, but we also ask for a note of any significant expenditure that should be noted against that bank balance. So if they have a particularly high bank balance, they might want to give us details about restricting some of that for project work or redundancy payments or stuff. Not all will give us that full information. So it used to be in, Stuart can correct me, it used to be in the papers, but I think some of the organisations felt it was to their detriment that was provided, so it was removed. Is that correct, Stuart?
Yep, that's correct, Kerry. Yep.
So we only, the summary that I've provided for yourself, Chair, is just indication of what was put on the applications. But if there's more questions, I can go back, but the information isn't there.
Yeah, okay. So there, I felt like that we have obviously this is a continued conversation we've had over several years. So I did want to look and see sort of, is it that they've got zero in the bank? What is going on at all? They have quite a significant fund, of which the costs are restricted for Bishopton Week and Gala Day. There's no detail as to what the costs cover, but they do have a significant amount of £18,695.56 for the Gala Day. So I have question marks about this application. We have all had concerns in the past about what they're looking for, and that's why I put it in discuss, because I feel like we need to discuss this application. Okay, so I'm going to open it up to Councillor McLaren at the moment.
Thank you, Michelle. So, yep, I can understand that they will have a sum of money held back in the bank. They had a particularly good year last year because of the good weather, but doesn't mean to say that this year is going to be good. And if it as has happened in the past, it gets we get a storm or something, then and hardly anybody turns up, there's going to be substantial cost there that they're going to have to meet. So they do need to hold a certain sum of money back for such an event. And if there's more, if it happens repeatedly, they will have no money.
Yeah, but can you also understand my concern of that they're giving money away to almost the equivalent of what they're asking us to provide as a local partnership? And
I think that certainly is a question worth asking. Yeah.
And in terms of, they have the money there, and I get that you can't predict the weather, but they do have the money just now. So even if they had to use up that fund and then apply for funding next year, that would also be my inclination at this point in time. I'm going to bring in Jacqueline, followed by Councillor Nicholson, then Councillor Mullen. Okay, thank you. Okay, Jacqueline?
No, I was just going to compare it. I suppose the only thing in terms of some of the activity and the entrance fee, because in the past we didn't fund the likes of the Erskine, the fireworks display, because we felt they were charging an entry fee, but they were asking for money to run it as well. So I guess it's a bit about understanding how much money they ask from the community. How much do the community pay towards activities? Because I guess they're not all free activities. And I think I would, if they've got a substantial amount in the bank, I think it would be better saying, well, if they can use that to backfill their funding this year, and then if they had to use it, come back next year and say, look, our contingency fund is now gone. We now need payment up front. But again, without knowing what they've got in the bank, it's difficult to see that. Okay.
Thank you very much. Councillor Nicholson?
Yeah, it's on the point of an organisation that applies for grant funding to run an event. And I accept Councillor McLaren's point. I mean, you run gala days, sometimes you have good years, sometimes you have bad years, but when you've got the good years, that money gets kept in the bank for the bad years, in a sense. I mean, from the social media post, they were able to donate grants out, which is their will, of £3,500, one of which was Bonnie Bishopton, one of which was Renfrewshire Toy Bank, etc., which is fine. But there's a principle at stake here, and this applies to any group that applies to us for money. If they have so much money, they can sit and then give out grants. I mean, technically they're asking us for a grant so they can give out grants, which is a very strange place for any. And that's a resource which I think, and I'm not, this isn't this particular group, this is in principle. That's a resource which has been taken away from other community groups, if you want to, because they're applying for money they don't need. But it's our job and duty to find out exactly what is their financial position and how do they intend to maintain enough money to cover the costs for the next year's events, etc. A fundamental key principle about any organisational groups is they need support rather than just want support, because we have a very limited pot and we have to make sure that pot is well spent and used in the areas that people need it. So I think this one, in case, we have to have a deeper understanding about why they have the ability to give out grants off their funds and then apply to the council for more in that sense. So I think that's something that needs to be further investigated, convener. Thanks.
Thank you very much, Councillor Nicholson. Councillor Mullen, followed by Councillor McCulloch.
I'm probably just repeating what Ian said, maybe not as long as, but the point, the principle is they've got money and they're wanting money and they're giving that money away to other causes. Now, that's the purpose of what we sit here for, is to give groups money to either put on events or do something in their community and support other groups as well. But not like this, when they're sitting with the balance they've got. And I've heard what Councillor McLaren says, but we can't predict the weather and we can't predict the good times and the bad times because every community is suffering on every things. So that's my view on it. And I do agree with Ian. I've got to say that. Thank you.
Thanks very much, Councillor Mullen. I did like the way you said it shorter than him, though.
Because you can't hit me. He's not on the table.
So right. So
I've got tomorrow.
Enough. Right, okay. Councillor McCulloch.
Thanks, Chair. Jacqueline kind of raised a point I wanted to raise was in the past we have not funded events that have been ticketed with a fee entry. We did previously fund Bishopton Day to an extent where we covered the kind of the paying rations in terms of first aid and the security, that making sure the well-being of people was taken care of. And that seemed a happy compromise. But I would be uncomfortable to fund any venture without knowing more about their finances, you know, especially if they've got money in the bank and they're giving money out. Then I would certainly not. I'm not against funding Bishopton Day, absolutely not. But I think we need to know more about what they have and what they intend to do with that money in the future before we agree to it. So I suggest we put it on hold until, I don't know, another time, or delegate the officers to agree to it if they're satisfied that there's resources there or whatever. Thanks.
Okay, I mean, there is a happy medium to be had here, which is that although we meet, we can come up with a decision, and then just if we need further information, and then we can make a decision via email.
Yeah.
And that's something that can be explored. So I'm going to bring in Councillor Early Nicholson at this point. Thank you very much for your contribution, Councillor McCulloch.
Yeah, I just wanted to say, I suppose I agree with Councillor McCulloch. It's important that we understand what the finances are in these groups that are applying for money, particularly if they have spare money to be able to give to somebody else as a result of that. And I'm not saying that that's not a good idea, but actually, if you're saying it kind of lessens the pot for everybody else who might not have any money in the bank, and I'm not saying they have or they haven't, but in terms of clarity for this group, if we're making an award, I think we need to make sure that we're not making an award for money to sit in the bank somewhere. Thanks.
Okay, so just for me to maybe find a place of consensus with this conversation, do we want to ring fence that funding to ask the applicant to explain to us what they are specifically looking at money for. What are they spending that other money on that they have on their accounts that means that they require that money from ourselves to support them?
Yeah, happy to continue this. Thank you.
Councillor McCulloch, you want to come in at this point?
Yeah, I agree with that. Could we also ask the same question of the development trust in Bishopton? Because I know they have their own resources. I think this is the same premise for both. That are happy to look at it and possibly fund it, but we need to know more about their finances.
Yeah, that's absolutely fine. I have no problem. I will obviously keep that for that discussion for that application, but I accept what you're saying, the Councillor McCulloch. I'm happy to agree that as well. Is everyone, in terms of this discussion, happy with that outcome that we are going to ask? Is there any specific questions that you feel that the points that we have made I have not specifically picked up on that specific question and concern that you want asked of them? Yeah, okay, I'm taking silence as fine, in fact. Okay, so we want to go back to the applicant, Kerry. We need to find out what they're saying, that they've got that money there in their account for Bishopton Week and Gala Day. What is that funding for? Why are they looking for the local partnership for that extra money when they're giving out bursaries or funding to other organisations? We need those answers to those questions. And then we can conduct a business via email. I'm content to do that, to consider this application at its earliest opportunity, okay? Right, okay, that's the agreed item. That's the agreed action for that item. Okay, so item, sorry, I'm going to just give me a second, because I never say it right, and they've made the effort of making sure that it is written in the papers that I get it right. So the application is FR1093, which is Fashly application. That's probably the best I've ever said it since I've had the application. And thank you to whoever thought about putting the pronunciation on it. Very grateful. Now, the reason I put this application in is we have rejected in the past because they don't do local things. I know that in last year's work they did do something locally. They did a Cayley in Erskine. So I'm not saying that we award the full amount, because I do think that if I don't know, they've not specified in their application a specific event that they're planning on doing in locality. But I did wonder if we'd maybe do what we've done before, which is give them maybe £1,000 towards as a partial award. Is anyone objecting to that? I'm happy for us to hold and then find out if they are doing something locally. Councillor McCulloch, do you want to come in?
Yeah, I think that's a good idea, Chair. The item of spend, the main one is the Stramash, for schools to 11 schools. I think I want to know if those 11 schools, if any of those are within this this area, and I think if any of the schools were, then great. If not, then probably not. I think that would be the kind of fairest way to look at it. Thanks.
Okay, so can we ring fence then an amount of about £1,000 then for this, on the proviso of getting feedback first, though? We're not going to fund it without finding out if they're doing something locally in relation to their work. If they are doing something locally, we will be happy for the funds to be released. And we will do that via email as well, Kerry, to be able to get that around members, okay? And I'm seeing lots of nodding heads, so that's great. Thank you very much for that. The next application is FR1150, Erskine Arts. The reason why I put that there is because we do obviously have Ali Whitty, who is usually, he is a member, he's just not here tonight. So I made the assumption that he would obviously need to leave the room for us to discuss the application. I think that this application is a lot clearer than what other applications have been. This is obviously one for us all to consider. I know there's been previous discussions. I'm no longer the chair, so that's why I can participate this time round. So is there any comments in relation to this application, or are we happy to move it to grant? Okay, everyone's happy to take it to grant, thank you. And then the last application for tonight is FR1127, which is the Bishopton Development Trust application. So there's been a lot of generated conversation, and I will take any other comments from anyone who feels like they've not had a chance to speak to this if they feel strongly to. But from what I could summarise is that we want to ring fence what they're asking for, but we want to go back and ask about money that they've got in their account. Colin's nodding, and to ask what is that specifically for, why they're looking for the money from us ourselves directly, and but also this is likely to go to the Village Investment Fund, so we want to just keep that money there and just to see how their application goes. I'm going to bring in Councillor Nicholson at this point.
No, it's just that Councillor McCulloch sort of beat me to the punch in that one. If I'm right, Home Park, there was a Section 75 attached to that site. It'd be interesting to ask, and I know it's quite a fair amount of money. I'm not sure if it was getting paid out over a number of years as the number of houses get built. It'd be interesting to ask that question about the resources they have for something like drainage and things like that as well. So it's just to re-emphasise, as I say, Councillor McCulloch raised the point before, it's just about asking the question about their other sources of income and resources that are coming in. Thanks.
Okay, Kerry, have you got note of that for the questions for the Bishopton Development Trust?
Sure, yes I have, thanks Chair.
Thank you very much. Councillor McLaren.
Thank you. Yeah, just on the Development Trust, my understanding is that they probably do have funding, but the idea is that they're saving up for fairly substantial building work, so they don't have the excess to pay for drainage as well. So that's why this £3,000 would be very helpful for them.
Okay, thank you for that extra information, Councillor McLaren. Obviously, we'll go back and ask them the questions. We will ring fence the money. As I said, we will ring fence it. They're also looking at the Village Investment Fund. So either way, the money will be there, but if they get awarded it through the Village Investment Fund, that's great. Otherwise, we'll have a look at what they come back to answers to us for us to be able to consider that application, okay? Right, we're getting nods all round. Is there everyone in agreement with that action? Agreed. Okay. Thank you, everyone. That is that item concluded for that. All the applications have been agreed in its various formats. And I thank you for, as ever, being very mature about the way that we go about this. I think that we're the best local partnership at actually doing this. So thank you. It's totally biased. I always say it, but I'm totally biased that way. Okay, so I'm just going back up to the top of my agenda here. Okay, so that's item 2 completed. Item 3 is the Erskine, Inchinnan, Bishopton and Langbank Local Partnership Budget Monitoring and Feedback Report. Is there any comments or questions on this item? We're happy to agree the item? Agreed. Okay, and the last item of tonight's business is item 4, which is the date of the next meeting, which will take place on the 30th of August of this year. Okay, so Kerry, you want to come in at this point?
Yeah, sorry Chair, it was just to say that the Erskine Allotments Association have actually sent over their feedback, so it's not. It was after the papers were issued, so I'll have it prepared for the next meeting that we have, and I'll also chase any further outstanding. I think I know what Jacqueline's going to say. Any further outstanding feedback as well, so I'll just keep that updated as well.
Okay, no bother. That's fine. Jacqueline, you want to come in at this point?
No, I know the Swing Park one has been submitted. I think it was the day after you were looking for it, Kerry, so apologies for that. But the other thing, I just wanted to double check. The 30th of August is a Friday. Is that right?
Give it a second.
Just happened to check ahead my calendar earlier, and that popped into my head, and I thought that's quite unusual for us. I think initially I had it in for the 28th, which is the Wednesday or the Thursday. Sorry.
Okay,
sorry, I will need to go back and double check that, Jacqueline.
Okay.
Oh, sorry, the 30th is not the 30th is a Saturday. I'm getting it wrong. The 30th of August is a Saturday.
Yes.
Definitely. So it won't. It definitely won't be on a Saturday. So what I will say for item 4 is that it will be to be confirmed, but it will not be on that day. Okay, so we'll get officers to confirm. So ignore the date that's written in the papers. That is incorrect, and it will be probably in that week, but whether it will be the Wednesday or Thursday, I'm unsure. But we will get confirmation and we will email it around to members so everyone has note of the correct date. Okay. And it'll be via MS Teams as well. Okay, that is grand. So that completes tonight's business. I thank you very much, in particular, for giving it such a nice evening, for giving your time. I'm very, very grateful for that. And I'll see you all soon. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Thanks, Chair. Thank you. Good night.